Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Simon here with AvaTrade. I want to welcome our new audience. There's some new people. It's always good to see new faces. And we're starting our webinar, your weekly trading plan. Before we go any further, I'd like to first of all read the risk warning, which is important. Any capital markets and trading information disclosed in this webinar is provided for informative purpose only and should not be construed or applied as investment advice, recommendation, or suggestion. CFDs are complex instruments and come with high risk of losing money rapidly due to leverage. 71% of retail investor accounts lose money when trading CFDs with this provider. You should consider whether you understand how CFDs work and whether you can afford to take the high risk of losing your money. You can find the full disclosure statement at avatrade.com. You can get in touch with us and follow us on Twitter and of course a YouTube channel which contains a lot of information including tutorials, videos with recorded webinars on fundamentals, technicals, and many more. Today's agenda, as usual, we'll talk about indices, FX, commodities, and some stocks, not necessarily in the same order. We'll be covering that. And before we go further, I just want to switch to the MT4. We'll be using the MT4 platform to go through the instruments. And before we go through any specific instruments, as usually, what I'm going to do is go over some events that did happen and some upcoming events and announcements that are coming up this coming week. And for those new people that joining us today, I just want to explain the whole purpose of this webinar is to create a structure, to create a plan. As we know, and I say it again, one of my favorite phrases, you plan your trade and you trade your plan. So what does it mean? Instead of just impulsively trading and reacting to things that were not planned, what we're trying to do with these webinars and something that helped me professionally in the past 21 years, really prepare, you want to call it homework, you want to call it plan, you want to call it structure, whatever you want to call it, just the idea of it is really to prepare yourself for the upcoming week for some possible trading scenarios, some possible outcomes, and look for trading opportunities that are possibly happening in the upcoming week. And this is the whole idea of this webinar. And my personal goal here is really to give you some practical ideas, practical structure that you can apply and take it with you into the upcoming week. So let's just try to look at the big picture first and try to see what happened last week. We had the FOMC meeting. There were no changes as far as the interest rate. And as was expected and already priced into the market, Powell announced that starting now in November, somewhere in mid-November, they will start cutting on quantitative easing. Basically, what's been happening for a while now, they've been providing liquidity by purchasing certain instruments. There were bonds and other securities that are mortgage-based, and now they will be cutting it by 15 billion a month. So that's something that is starting to be happening, and the Feds were talking about it for a while, and now it's actually happening. And it was followed by a press conference. I don't know if some of you had the chance to listen to it. I did. It was of course, in a video mode, on the Zoom mode, I believe. And there were some questions that we didn't really. What I observed, there's nothing new, and the whole idea what Powell was trying to reveal is the same thing. So they really paying attention to the labor market, and they're trying to bring the labor market to the pre-COVID levels. and then they'll be monitoring things and see how things are going. The same language, nothing happened. And um, with that announcement, markets actually went up, and we went to the new highs on the indices. We'll be talking about it in a moment. And then on Friday we had the NFP numbers coming, and the numbers actually beat expectations. As far as the new jobs added, they were expected to be 425,000. We came out with 531,000, higher than expected. And the unemployment rate fell another 0.1% from 4.7 to 4.6. Actually, it was expected to be 4.7. The report shows 4.6, which is 0.2% lower than the previous month report. So a market reacted to that too in a positive way. And let's just see what's waiting for us as far as the announcements this week. On the economic calendar, we have some leading economic index from Japan. That's on Monday. On Tuesday, I don't see anything super major happening. The only thing that Bank of Canada governor is speaking on that day. On Wednesday, we have the CPI numbers from China, the inflation from China. And we have also CPI numbers from the US. That is on Wednesday. That is important because the Feds are really closely monitoring the inflation situation. We have Australia. They are reporting on Thursday unemployment and employment change, of course. We have GDP numbers from UK. A lot of numbers on Thursday from UK, and I'll talk about them. And then on Friday, we have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index, which is important as well. So something that talking about the UK brought to my attention that yesterday, not yesterday, but the last week, everybody was expected some change. I think we talked about it as well in our meeting. So there was some expectation as far as the interest rate changes, and nothing happened. And the currency reacted in a negative way. We'll see it in a moment. So let's just go now to the platform, and then we'll be going through some individual instruments, and we'll start with crude oil. Take a look. Crude oil had to move down as going into the OPEC meeting. We talked about it, that President Biden actually tried to convince OPEC to produce more oil so the prices could go lower, as there's a lot of issues with the high prices of oil. And OPEC didn't do anything. They'll still stick to the same plan. And that's actually caused the move oil higher. Take a look. We had a double top around 84. The last one was 80, 84, 86, and then we slid down to about 78.50. And then Friday, we had the first up day after 3 days of sell-off on oil. So there's also, I browsed a few articles, and there's some articles stating that oil still has an opportunity to going to 100, as the OPEC is also kind of contributing to this by not pumping more oil than it is. So we'll be watching oil on possible continuation to the upside on this news, and maybe retesting the previous highs that we kind of failed to break out of. So 85, between 84, 85, that's the next level. Let's take a look at natural gas, as we're talking already about the energies. Natural gas, it's kind of in the middle between the recent support and the recent highs. So We did close the gap that we had, and then we came and then we sold in sympathy with oil, I believe, and now we're sitting here. So we'll be seeing what oil doing and what natural gas will be doing the upcoming week. Following with commodities, gold has had a very nice Friday after the report on NFPs. We really shoot up. Take a look what happened here. This happened on the 3rd of November. We had a sell-off. We touched the previous support around 1760. The low here was 1758.73, and the buyers came in and came right back. Then on Thursday, we broke through the previous resistance of 1781, and then Friday we went straight up. Just want to show it to you on the 1-hour chart. Take a look. This is the announcement. They came, the NFPs, right after NFPs. The level of 1790 was holding. Let's take a look. This is hourly chart. So we held 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 hours straight. We held this level. Then we tried to break out at the fake breakout from the previous high. We came, retested 1790, and with the announcement, we just went vertically up. There was a move from 1790 to 1880. That's $29 straight. And take a look on the daily chart. We actually broke this level we discussed, 1813, and we closed high here. So if Monday we continue going higher, so 1832 would be the next level to retest. And take a look what happened so far. We had few attempts, 3, almost 4 attempts, and we failed to break out of it. So 1832, that's the next level to retest. Of course, we might not go straight there. We can go back and retest the 18 psychological level and continue there. So gold's going to be in focus. And there's also different articles there. Some said that the gold was selling recently because the money flowing out of ETFs of gold and going into cryptocurrencies and so on. And now with all the inflation continuing and everything else, some analysts suggesting that gold is a good place to keep your money. It's a lot of course, always everybody's pushing their own agenda. We're not going to be judging that. We'll just watch the price action. So far, we're breaking out of the resistance and we're on the way to retest the next resistance around 1832. So that's on gold. Let's take a look at other metals. Palladium is ranging, nothing major is happening here. And platinum had a hard time breaking of 1044, but we are trading around this level. So again, for platinum to go higher, we would need to close about 1044. So far, it's having a hard time doing that. So that's as far as gold. And let's take a look at the soft commodities really quick. And this is the wheat. We spoke last week about 1773. We started the week with a huge move up. This was on the 1st of November. And then we had the 4 days straight down, and we are below 1773 level again. That's wheat. Soybeans having a hard time to going higher. So they're coming back to retest the lows. I guess 1200, around 1200 support would be retested possibly. And corn had moved the previous week, and this week 4 days we're pretty much selling off. And the same thing, we're on the way to retest this 547, 548 area and possibly establish or confirm the support here as well. Okay, so that's as far as commodities. Let's move into currencies, and we start with the US dollar index, and this is the daily chart. Thursday was a strong day after we confirmed this level 93.82. We couldn't break it to the downside. Then we closed higher than the previous 4 days. And Friday, after the announcement, NFPs, we had a move down. This is the vertical line I draw here. This is the announcement on NFPs, and we sold, and we came to hold this level here around 94.15, and we couldn't break below it. So let's see what happens this upcoming week. If we're holding it, like we said last week, we really focusing on breaking out of this range. It's been sitting here for trying to break this level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks straight, and let's see if it happens. So let's start from the major currencies and see how they play out this week. Euro was really weak, and after retesting the 115.30 area, let's take a look. At least we know that this level is holding very strong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attempts. We couldn't break 115.30, and this was on Thursday. It was a weekday for Euro. And Friday, again after the NFP announcements, Euro had a little bit of a move up. So we'll be watching what the dollar index is doing, of course, with Euro. Euro's been really weak together with the pound, and we'll move to pound. Let's take a look. This was the reaction, the pound to no actions as far as interest rate decision. I guess there were some expectations, and the buyers really decided to unload on pound, and this was happening. Take a look. This let's take a look, 1 hour chart. It was just a strong sell-off. And let's see the range. The high was 136.92 and the low 134.70, 220 points to the downside. Very strong sell-off. There are not really any serious levels here. So if this week, if pound continues to go lower, we would need to see how it acts around 134. It's about 100 pips away from here. And there's a possibility that it will continue lower. Of course, depends on the news, depends what dollar index is doing, and so on. New Zealand dollar has been on the down trend a little bit. After this move higher, we failed to break out of it, and now we're kind of looking for the next support. Dollar Swiss franc is holding strongly. USD CHF 91.12 level is holding, and let's see if the uptrend continues from here. There's a lot of fights going on for this level, so let's see what happens here. Another thing that I saw, USD NOK, the Norwegian krona connected to oil, of course, it had to move higher after this. A lot of accumulation, dipping below, going higher, failing to continue, coming back to the level and confirming it. So of course, depends what dollar will be doing and depends what oil will be doing, but there is a possibility of continuation to the upside. And let's try to see a few scenarios we can draw of a trend line here. So if this level holds, we can continue to the upside and look for possible continuation to around, let's say 909, 910 level. That would be a very nice trade over here. So we'll be watching USD NOK for that move. Another one that is very popular among the traders is USD ZAR, especially traders from South Africa, of course. We had a very nice move the moment we broke through 15. We went, retested, and broke through this previous level that we had of 1521. we closed higher, then we failed to break 1550. I think the high here was 1548.46, 1548.57, almost identical levels. And then we failed to go higher. We came and possibly will be retesting around 15. So the low here was on Friday was 15.01. So there's a possibility that we will establish or reconfirm a support of 15 and continue higher. And if we do break to the downside, that there's a chance of going and retesting the previous level of 1450 here. So we'll be watching that. Australian dollar, the moment we broke through 74.76, it's been looking down. And one thing that shows here that this level of a previous lots of action, there was a resistance, another resistance, support, and we closed right below it. So it opens possibility for continuation to the downside on the Australian dollar. We'll be watching it this week as well. And everything to do with yen was very active last week. Yen went up. Let's take a look. I'll use DJPY. Take a look. We couldn't break 114.50, and we closed below 1350. So we're at 1340. What's the low here was 113.29. So all other currencies were very strong against the yen. I'm sorry, weak against the yen. So take a look: Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, Swiss franc, NZD. Yen has been very, very strong together with gold. So it's very interesting. It just triggers the question. Usually, and so I believe I mentioned last week also, usually when the markets are selling and we have something they called risk off trading, that means the money coming out of the risky assets like individual stocks or indices, equities, and they flow into the risk of instruments or safe haven, and they are traditionally gold, Japanese yen, and used to be Swiss franc, maybe still is. So it's very interesting because if we look at S&Ps making new highs and all other indices making new highs, that you would think that the money would flow out of gold. And it's interesting, as we're making new highs, the gold is continue higher here, and so does the Japanese yen. So somebody's lying there. Sorry, I just my opinion. It just doesn't add together. So I just want to see this week what really works out. If we are continuing high into the New Year's here, it's going to be very interesting to see what the gold is doing, because ideally, historically or logically, the money would flow into the risk assets and out of the safe havens. So we'll be watching it. So we'll go through a few indices, and something that also I wanted to point out. Take a look at this trend line that I draw here. As we're making new highs, the volume is drying. New highs on the lower volume, and it's pretty much everywhere. Take a look at Nikkei. As Nikkei went up, the volume went down. Dow Jones, the volume is lower. FTSE, same thing. Take a look at the high values here. The volume is drying up. DAX, I'm sorry, DAX is drying up. CAC, the French index, we just made a new high, and the volume is lower. So again, I want to say that the market is going to crash, like some of the analysts are saying, and there's some articles how to prepare for it and so on. But so far, the market is really unstoppable. It's going higher, and it's very interesting how there's a something's going on, something that's not logical. We have, again, going back to the big picture, we have COVID still there, and over the weekend you will see a lot of articles that Europe is really getting worse on COVID. China is getting worse on COVID. Um, we have supply chain issues. We have other issues, energy crisis in Europe and everywhere else, and the markets are just continuing higher. It's a paradox that I guess one day the historians will have the explanation for. So that's as far as indices. We'll be watching this week for either continuation or reversal. It's something so far. It's a robust move higher. Nothing we can say or do about it. And let's see what happens the upcoming week. So we'll switch to individual stocks, and of course something that you probably heard about or will be reading. It's Pfizer. Pfizer, besides the good earnings they announced, this is the news over here. They just announced, I believe on Friday, that the pill. I was waiting actually for something like that to happen after the Merck came out with the pill. So Pfizer came with the pill, and they say it's 89% effective. It's lowering the chances of death and going to the hospital and so on. So it's take a look. We closed on Thursday at 43.75, and we opened at 48, about 4.5. It's about 10% move approximately, and we closed on the highs. So there's a potential continuation to retest the highs. Big news on Pfizer. And on the same news, I tried to find something on Boeing, and actually one of the things I found on Boeing, that actually Boeing went up partially, besides other reasons, partially on the Pfizer good news on this pill. So take a look at Boeing as we looking at it. Of course, they had some settlement of 225 million, other things, but one of the articles said about Pfizer that it gives hope on COVID and so on. So also strong move on Boeing. We're on the way to retest the previous levels of 229, 230. We'll be watching that. So that's Pfizer. Disney is reporting this week. Disney is reporting on the 10th aftermarket, and the stock gaps up and continues higher. There's a lot of choppy trading here on Disney, of course, with the parks, with the COVID, with the movies coming out and so on. There's a lot of things. Let's see what this week will do. As far as continuation, we could continue higher. And speaking of continuation, it brings me to Nike. Take a look. Remember we discussed Nike. They really had a strong sell-off, and then last week we said that we're coming to level of resistance. We broke through it, and Nike pretty much, with all the issues that were posted there, we just at the all-time highs, 177.52. That's the closing price. So of course there are two scenarios. One, we could continue and there's no resistance, so we can continue indefinitely. Or if we sell off or some profit taking will be taking place, we'll be watching what this level. The previous level of resistance was about 173.77. It's about $4 from the current closing price. So we'll be watching Nike. And interesting how the sell-off just turned into a huge V recovery and new highs. So let's take a look at some big players. Facebook, with all the renaming and all the issues, insiders and so on, it's been strong. And the key level for the continuation of the strength is this high here of 343.56. If we do break this level and establish some closings above it, there's a open space for the continuation to the upside. Apple, we said the Apple dipped below 150, and this week we actually managed to stay above it. But on the markets going higher, I don't see Apple making new highs, so it just triggers a thought. Maybe it has some hesitation, and it might dip back before before going higher. It can go below 150 again, maybe retest the lower levels here. Microsoft, on the other hand, making new highs, but on Friday, it actually closed lower than the opening. Google stays at the all-time highs. Amazon follows the Apple also, and he had a nice recovery here. And similar idea, we have to show some strength around this level here from which was sold, and this was 3,542 and a half. So we'll be watching this week what Amazon will be doing. And JP Morgan was the strongest out of the banks, and we're still trading below 170, 171.26 on JP Morgan. Goldman Sachs also, there's a little selling pressure here after making a quick all-time highs, was sold out this week. The same Citigroup is the weakest out of them. So we'll be watching this week what's happening in this area. And Netflix, after making this a huge move higher, where the 2 days of selling, and the second one with the gap closing lower, somebody's selling the stock. So we'll be watching what's happening next. Potentially we could come to some lower levels and looking for support. As of now, this is the 2 straight days with the large candles down. It's a strong selling going on. Let's take a look on the volume. Okay, let's see what happens. Tesla is the champion, the favorite stock of everybody and all the management. Last week, one of the big funds sold 94 million worth of the stock. Also, there's a lot of things that were on articles as we spoke the previous week. The Hertz announced that they're buying a huge fleet of the cars. And last week, actually, Elon Musk tweeted, or he wrote it, I don't remember what was the source, but he said that, surprisingly, he actually said the statement that's kind of against Tesla stocks. He's a funny guy. So he said that it's still not closed, the agreement wasn't signed, and even if it was, that the purchase of the cars, it shouldn't really have a huge impact on the company and so on. But it did move the stock tremendously. So we'll be watching what Tesla is doing. So far after this move, there's nothing going on to the sell side, and there are different target prices. 1,500. Some say that the price in 2025 will be $3,000 per share. So the stock is moving, the company is thriving, good things. All other electric vehicle producers are just trying to play catch up. So Tesla is the hero here. And Walmart will be the last one we'll be looking at. Walmart, we said it was a selling here, just for those of you that didn't hear us, we said that Walmart started the sell-off the moment that Amazon announced the physical retail facilities opening, and then we can retest the previous level of support around 134, 135, and there was a very nice recovery, and then we kind of held to 149, 150 area, and let's see if we manage to retest the 150, 152 and a half area, or if not, if we see some closings below 149.60, we could continue sliding lower. That's as far as Walmart. So we went. And so the ETF came out and gave a little bit of a boost to Bitcoin. Since then, we came back, retested the 60,000, kind of holding in between the all-time high of 66 or 67,000 and 60,000 support. So it's like 59 and a half. And let's see what happens. A lot of actions happening here. It could be a build up for continuation. It could be build up for some move lower. Again, nobody's a genius. Nobody knows. And Ethereum, on the other hand, it looks very strong here. It's had a move on the 2nd of November. We closed at all-time highs, and then we kind of slid a little bit lower here, but we are holding to these levels here. So again, what affected, just a little bit of summary. Last week we had FOMC that signaled the starting the tapering. The market reacted positive to it. It was already priced in. There was no panic, no surprises. Then press conference didn't say anything much as far as interest rate hikes happening soon. No changes there as well. Then NFPs were really showing the growth in the economy. And we're having an interesting week. Not super major announcements, but after digesting all the FOMCs and NFPs, let's see what the public is doing, what the analysts are saying, what brokers are doing. It's going to be a very interesting week. The equity markets are on the highs. Gold is getting some strength at the same time, and oil into a little bit of recovery from recent sell-off. I wish everyone an amazing week. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, get some energy, have a plan, manage your risks, be happy and healthy. All the best. Take care.